Let's talk about why some bees control Varroa mites and others, the colonies are collapsing. So Varroa mites are destroying colonies across the US, but in parts of Africa, bees are actually surviving them and have always survived them. No heavy chemical rotations, no constant collapse cycles. What's going on? In North America, Varroa destructor weakens the brood, spreads viruses, and collapses commercial operations. European honeybees never evolved with this parasite, but the African honeybees did. And evolution has left them with a few weapons. Weapon one, grooming. African honeybees aggressively groom mites off of their bodies. They don't just remove them, they damage them. Researchers have discovered new types of mite injuries caused by the bees themselves. Same hygienic behavior as European bees, just far better grooming. Weapon number two, mite reproduction suppression. This is the big one. Inside African colonies, many mites are infertile. Egg laying is reduced, female mites and the offspring die before maturity. Mite growth slows dramatically. So it changes the entire population curve. Instead of exponential explosion, there's controlled growth. There's an environmental factor as well. Hormones tied to nutrition and forage increase or improve the colony's resistance. Better forage, stronger hormonal regulation, stronger colony response. Nutrition matters a lot more than we think. And Varroa mites don't kill colonies overnight. They win by reproduction. And in most US colonies, they reproduce extremely well. But in African honeybee colonies, that reproduction cycle breaks down. Let's take a look why. To understand resistance, you have to understand the enemy. Here's how Varroa destructor multiplies. The adult female mite rides around on an adult honeybee. Just before the brood is capped, the mite slips into the cell with the larvae. Inside the cell, she lays eggs. The first one is male, the rest are female, and they mate inside the cell with the maturing larvae, and they emerge with the larvae once it's ready to emerge, and there's a bunch of mites, and they're mated, and they're ready to reproduce, and so the cycle continues. Each successful cycle adds more fertile females to the colony. Now multiply that across thousands of brood cells. That's how infestations explode. Why do European bees struggle with Varroa mites? In most European honeybee colonies, most of the mites will reproduce successfully. The female offspring mature, they mate, they exit, ready to infest the new brood. It's an efficient reproductive process, and that's why untreated populations grow exponentially. So what's different with African honeybees? In African honeybee colonies, researchers found something remarkable. The reproduction cycle often fails. Remember how I said that during the grooming process, they're damaging the mites, damaging their legs, damaging their bodies. It's got to affect their ability to reproduce. A large percentage of mites simply don't lay eggs inside the capped brood. No eggs, no next generation. That alone slows the growth dramatically. There's also reduced egg production. Even when the mites do lay eggs, in African bee colonies, they're laying a lot fewer than expected. Fewer daughters, lower expansion. Mating failure, this is critical. Inside the sealed brood cell, mating must occur before emergence. In African colonies, many female offspring never successfully mate. They don't mate, they cannot reproduce later. They exit sterile. This breaks the population chain. Offspring mortality. In many cases, most offspring die before maturity. Development is disrupted, whether due to brood, environment, grooming before capping, or subtle colony level factors. The result is the same. The lower viable reproductive output. Role of grooming in African honeybees. African honeybees groom aggressively. They remove the mites from the adult bees. They damage the mite legs and their bodies. They interrupt the phoretic stages before the mites enter the brood. That reduces the number of mites even before they get to the reproduction stage. But here's the key. It's not just removal. It's suppression of the reproductive process. And that's what changes the long-term population curve of the Varroa mite in African honeybees. So here's why this matters to commercial honeybee keepers. Varroa population growth is exponential. If you slow the population growth even slightly, you shift the entire infestation time. Instead of explosive growth, you get a manageable pressure. That means fewer emergency treatments, lower viral loads, more stable colonies. African honeybees aren't immune to Varroa mites. They just prevent the mite from reproducing effectively. And that's a completely different strategy from constant chemical rotation. Now, of course, we can't teach European bees how to groom like an African honeybee. We don't have that sort of time on our hands. Evolution took care of that for us, and there's nothing we can do about it. However, what we are interested in, or I'm interested in hearing about from commercial beekeepers in the US, is if you've noticed a difference in your honeybees' resistance along certain genetic lines. Are some colonies holding their own for longer before treatments become necessary? Yes, I'd like to know. Post your comments, subscribe, put your state. We'd like to know what state you're from. If you're in pollination, what states do you operate in? Let's start a discussion.